when someone in the community wants to initiate a circle, they meet with a facilitator, and in the pre-circle, the facilitator is going through basically 5 steps. So the first one is finding the act. The second one is hearing meaning, so the impact that this act has for the person initiating or anyone else when they get pre-circled. Explaining the restorative circle process and checking whether there's any questions. And then asking the participant, the initiator or the following participants, who needs to be there. So who's to be invited to attend the circle, to participate. And then whether they want to go ahead so that there's voluntary consent.
So Laura, what was said or done that you want to bring to a restorative circle?
The first step is getting the act. And in the act, the facilitator asks this question of the initiator of what was said or done that you'd like to bring to a restorative circle. And what we mean by what was said or done is that the facilitator is looking for something very factual, that is actually, in a way, can't really be disputed, or is as if a video camera would have caught it. So Rita, what was said or done that you would like to bring to a restorative circle?
Yesterday, out of the blue, phoned me, and she was very earnest, and she said, tomorrow there is a meeting, will you please come to the meeting?
Something was said, and who said it? It's either the initiator or maybe another person, or something was done, and who did it? The initiator or another person, or even what does the initiator remember, and taking responsibility that they remember it that way because maybe other people would have remembered it different. And so we're looking for something that, we could almost capture in a sentence or in 2 sentences that's simple, precise, factual. And one of the big reasons we're looking for this is because the facilitator is going to take this act or this sentence or 2 to following members who are named to attend the circle, and when they meet following members, they're going to say that, this is the act, the going act for the circle.
What's the thing that, what's the act that you would define as the trigger point for you to go to circle?
So yeah, what was in my memory is this sentence that he was frustrated with them, and then he said, he was through the house, he was frustrated, and he said, okay, don't come to us unless there's a cobra inside the house.
Okay, so
that's what I remember.
Okay.
I heard
Claire
say that
told her to not come to him unless there is a cobra in the house.
Yes.
Okay, and that's like the latest of their arguments somehow?
Yes, somewhat. I don't know exactly where they're at now. This was a week ago.
A week ago,
yeah,
okay.
And some sort of a time frame as well. So did this happen yesterday? Did it happen last week, last month, last year? It doesn't have to be totally precise. It doesn't have to be at 2:30 in the afternoon. But some sort of a time frame also, so that when other people are invited, there's a clear reference of, oh, that's what we're talking about. I don't know, maybe a week ago or so, I went to Bread and Chocolate. And it was like, I would say 95, to be more precise, I was going to say 95% people I didn't recognize, but there was one person. There was Emanuele, the cartoon artist. So in the whole place, and it was packed, he was in line, and I had like magically found a table and chair for me and my mom. But it was people I didn't recognize, and to me, I would label them all as tourists from the big cities, Bangalore or Chennai. And that I've had this several times in the last weeks that I go to Bread and Chocolate.
And it's packed with people that you identify?
To me it seems that it's like 95% people from the big cities.
From outside.
Yeah. And sometimes the initiator because probably if they're calling a circle, this act has some charge for them, some emotional content or impact, and so they might share words like, he always or she always does that, or they never do this. And so it's really the facilitator's job also to look at how can they translate those charged words into something that's more factual, and instead of focusing on the always, okay, so what is it last week that they did? And to keep it as simple, and also because it's very much the starting point, the real content or the real impact or the real charge and the complexity of interpersonal dynamics, that will all hopefully come up in the circle, and that it's really the most important that it comes up in the circle and not just in the pre-circle, since the facilitator is not going to solve these challenges.
And so I would say again, what was said or done that you'd like to bring to a circle? And I'm hearing, for example, that one thing that was said is you heard somebody say that I was kicked out, or my child was kicked out, or I don't want my child to sit in a concentrated manner for 3 hours, something like this. So what's something that was said or done that you'd like to bring to a circle?
The moment where I decided to call the circle was because of this Sunday where I was part of the marathon market. And our stand was surrounded by people that had decided to leave. And I heard so negative things from people I really love. Yeah, really beautiful, nice people. But that energy, and that's when I realized, oh my God, it's not gonna stop just like that. She said, yeah, my boy doesn't want to come, what should I do? And then chose to leave.
Yes.
And then there came the question of the lunches.
And then you hear later, so
Yeah, I got kicked out, so she didn't get kicked out in that sense.
Yes.
That's what I meant.
So do you want that to be the act?
Maybe can we put it on general? That I heard people say they were kicked out.
Yeah. So you heard parents say that their kids.
Yes, I don't want to put names.
Were kicked out.
Yeah.
We can leave it as that.
Yeah.
And also what can be very sweet in the facilitator is, not coming out right and saying, oh, well, no, that's a judgment, but saying, okay, so when you remember it that way, or when it lands for you that way, or when you think that, what exactly was said or done that led you to think that. So to try to dig out something that's more of an act or more factual.
So would you say, Rita, that the act is that called you yesterday at 3 o'clock and asked you to join this meeting at TDC today?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would say that's the act. Yeah.
Also something that's quite sweet in terms of the stance of the facilitator is always to have this sense of being half a step behind the initiator. So the facilitator doesn't lead the conversation. The facilitator doesn't also choose which act is the going act, that we really allow the initiator to say that, it's this piece of my sharing that's important, it's this piece that I want you to take as the act instead of this one. So the facilitator has this, in how I see it at least, always half a step behind, that they're holding space, they're listening, they're reflecting meaning, they're hosting the process, but they're not leading, they're not guiding, they're not telling the initiator where they should go. The initiator goes and the facilitator is right behind.